So I want to talk to you about intergenerational trauma, and it's pretty much just how it sounds. It's basically when parents pass down a set of beliefs, ways of thinking, negative behaviors to their children. Okay, I mean, and typically those behaviors and those thoughts stem from something that really bad that happened to the parent, and so they're passing that information on with their children. So here's an example. Say a mother was really abused as a child. She might grow up and realize that really toughened her up, and then she's abusive to her children because she needs to toughen them up, and then her children do the same thing. But actually, the trauma can show up in different ways. I mean, you typically think of that as the cycle of abuse. It can actually happen differently. One set of children might grow up and lack discipline for their own children for fear of being abusive. And so in that way, it happens in a completely different way. There could be a mom or a dad, who's a bad alcoholic and teaches his kids that life is really hard. And this is one way you can deal with it and just let go and relax. And so that behavior is passed on and on and on. And it's called intergenerational trauma, like I said, because this initial belief that parents or grandparents had about the world stemmed from something bad that happened to them, from some hurt that they had, and this was their response, this was their fix, and they passed that on. Now, there's also such a thing as intergenerational success, right? That term has not been coined, but it's the same thing. Parents that have really positive traits and really positive experiences, they're going to pass those down. And actually, it's usually a combination, right? Like you pass down some trauma, you pass down some success. But I want you to think about this because life is like walking up a rocky hill. And your parents are always ahead of you and your children are always behind you. This is the rule that's never going to change. And every rock that you can remove from the path is one less stumbling stone that those behind you will have to remove themselves or risk tripping over and hurting themselves. And so, your parents that are in front of you, they've removed some rocks, right? Those are the successes, and those are the traumas they've resolved on their own. They've removed those rocks so that you don't have to trip on them. Sometimes your parents might come to a very rocky bluff, and there's no way they can remove that rock. So they have a choice. They can either ignore it and say they'll figure it out when they get there, or they can turn back and yell at you and like, hey man, there's a really bad rock here. And then if they tell you in time, you could stop at the rock store because there's rock stores all along here. You can buy some dynamite or some really good rock picks. And maybe when you get up there, you can remove that ledge so that your own children that will be following behind you don't have to, stumble over it or try to climb it and traverse it and what have you and risk hurting themselves. Every trauma and negative pattern of thinking and acting that you resolve is one less rock that those that follow behind you, and remember your children are behind you, your grandchildren are behind you, it's one less rock they risk tripping over. And it is never too late in your life to start removing rocks because eventually your children are going to walk that same path that you've walked. It doesn't matter if you've made it to the end of your, life, you're on the other downhill slide and you're thinking, well, it's too late. I've already left so many rocks in the way. You can look back and see all the rocks you've left. You know what your kids are going to have to stumble over. It's still not too late. You start removing the rocks where you're at. And eventually they're going to pass over that and they will not have to trip over those rocks. It's a great analogy. And just every battle you fight is one less battle your kids and your grandkids have to fight. So you need to give up on the bullshit. Give up on the bad habits. Give up on holding grudges. Give up on anger and violence and all that crap that's dragging you down. Give up on it and start a new life. A healthy life. Go get some exercise, drink some water, eat some good food, call a friend, go out in the sunshine, Hug a tree. That's what I do. I got lots of friends, and they're all trees. All right, go out there and be awesome.